All right, Dr. Drew, you just got into it with Bill Lloyd about Bobby Christina. We're going to continue that conversation. We actually just got a tweet from @NicoleMerck. Says, my friend was in a medically induced coma for 1 year and woke up and she's perfect. Crazier stuff has happened.
Not a medically induced coma. They don't do that for a year. She may have been in a coma for a year. That's possible. And that's my point, is there's coma and then there's coma. This is somebody whose coma is so unstable that she has to remain in intensive care unit on a ventilator. I promise you that's not that story. That's not the story. And that's what I'm reading between the lines. Now, if she's not in ICU, not on a ventilator, and I'm just led to believe that, then I take it all back.
Right.
But if she is on a medically induced coma and she sees as if they try to lighten her up and she's on a ventilator and she can't get out of the ICU, 3 weeks, that's catastrophe.
I don't think anyone's disputing your facts, but I think we also need to look at this family, and they're a God-fearing family, and you come from a very clinical, scientific background, and it feels very cold, and you use words, like on the show today, you use the word silly, which I'm sure is very offensive when that family is in the beginning stages of what could look like grief. So I think for them, God trumps everything. I come from a very Christian background. God is over your ventilator talk and your 3 weeks.
So somebody has to reach them on that basis and talk about God having taken her already. God has already,
and that's okay,
God has already done his job.
I don't think anyone, and a doctor, I've never seen a doctor talk to a family on that level. And at the end of the day,
I do all the time.
3 weeks.
Your job as a doctor is to get through the family on their level, however they understand things, and represent the patient. If the patient is in misery, if the patient's survival is going to be horrible, you have to bring everybody, because everybody else is worried about how they're feeling. It's not about the patient. They don't want to feel the grief. They don't want to see the misery. They want them to get better. I know that. I'd be the same way. But the doctor has to come in and go, look, God already did his work. He took her. He did it. It's already gone. And I'm telling you, and if you make the decision to keep her in a limbo, it's not going to be her, because he's got her already.
So do you think we're going to start seeing, when this thing finally wraps up, you think we're going to see some ethical issues brought in?
No. I guarantee the doctors are struggling with the family. Those
do you think the doctors are telling them and they're not hearing it, or do you think that the doctors are like, oh, I've got this kind of celebrity thing?
No. I think they've convened. Dr. Lloyd agreed too. They have bioethics and ethical committees, probably talking about it every day.
Absolutely.
What do we do? What do we do? How do we help them? How long are we going to go with this? And how do we help them come to terms with it?
Well, it's 3 weeks. I mean, for you, 3 weeks, I'm sure, is long from a clinical standpoint. It takes me longer than 3 weeks to find a dress sometimes. So, I don't want to put a timeline on it. It's tough.
I understand. I mean, from a family perspective, it's tough to think 3 weeks is nothing in the life of Bobby and Christina. But during this time, like you said, Dr. June, they're not just hanging out, waiting to see what happens. They're doing active protocols. They're trying to get her out of it. They're probably doing multiple consultations to think about different types of protocols they can approach. So it's been a very active 3 weeks for the doctors. And we just know, again, facts, medical evidence, that when somebody cannot breathe on their own and cannot be lessened on that ventilator.
And can't get out of an ICU, they're so unstable. That means she would die if she leaves the ICU. She's too unstable. No progress in 3 weeks. In 3 days, you start to go, uh-oh. At 10 days, you go, forget it. At 3 weeks, you're like, oh.
So are we seeing like a unique circumstance because it's because of her, it's a celebrity, or is this happening every day in the hospital?
This happens. You guys, I think people didn't hear me when I said the dirty little secret about ICUs is we most times, and I mean most, are sorry we started. Yes. We don't know when we start that we're going to end up in this limbo, but we're like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, just like you said too, Dr. Drew, that God's already got her. Yeah. We knew these clues already when they first took her in, and all she had was a blinking.
Right, but you try. You want to give it a try at the beginning, but after 3 days, you can start going, oh, this isn't going to go so well. And then you get into this, something's going on. Something is not right now. That's all I know. I haven't been there many, many times with people.
Judy, I have a question for you. We heard from Nick Gordon's attorney that he's not being allowed to see Bobby Christina.
It's kind of sad.
If she passes, how will that affect his grieving? Because we don't know how he is with the family, but he was really important to Bobby Christina. Right. She was important to him. So won't that affect his grieving process?
Oh, absolutely. There's 2 parts of grief. One is that you have to kind of be ready for it. People feel a little bit better when they feel like they've had their time. And so if somebody's having a progressive illness, it's not that it makes it easier, but at least you've had time to say goodbye and spend quality time. So he already doesn't have that because this was a surprise. Yeah. And then to not even get to say a final goodbye, if they pull her off the ventilator, it's always going to be a what if for him. He's going to continue to be haunted by whatever their last conversation or interaction was. But it is what it is. I don't think that they're really that concerned about his emotional state right now. There's just so many other things.
We should get a neurologist in here, maybe for this or maybe for the TV, and a neurologist can talk to you about these hypoxic brain injuries and what the probabilities are.
Yeah, I think everyone would be really interested
people
in that.
we consult with on these things, and they usually go, it's hard to tell with hypoxic brain injury, but the longer it goes unstable, the more probable it is to be a disaster.
Absolutely.
All right, well, we'll try and get that info for you because the Dr. Drew talk sometimes goes over my head too. But we'll be following this story more and more. Bye, guys.